Blog Talk Radio.
Well, we're in the middle of 3 shows. This is the middle, if you want to look at it, if you're breaking it down in the innings, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. We just completed Barrel Radio with Marianne Costello and myself doing that one. This leads into the American Sports History Podcast, hosted by my good friend Peter Ray, live from Cleveland. Yours truly, Mark Mancini, producing this. And right after this one will be Philadelphia with the cheesesteaks, the Liberty Bells, and tourism. Mike Paternoster, Damian McGlynn running Major League Baseball Diamond Talk. So you want to listen to that one right after this. But as we give the podium, the mic and the red carpet over to this guy, Peter, first of all, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, it seems like you brought Alcatraz into the mix tonight.
Hi, Mark. I'm doing well, very well. I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A. I have a website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray, and I've been reminded by Tony Russo, who's one of the big guys in this, or Russo, to mention stablesmedia.com and also on Facebook, Stables Media. Now, tonight's guest is, we just got off the phone, a guy full of energy and enthusiasm, wonderful sense of humor, and he's got a show on the this tremendous sports podcast network headed by our fearless leader, Mark Mancini. And so anyway, tonight's guest is a guy from the San Francisco Bay Area, which is just, of course, full of sports history, all those teams. And he's a cab driver. They call him Cabby. Welcome to the show, Michael Crepinsek.
Hey, glad to be back, Ray. I love to talk baseball, Cleveland. Mancini, you forgot when you mentioned the Philadelphia. You forgot to mention psychotic Eagles fans. That's a basic staple in the city of brotherly love. If you're an Eagles fan, you're probably psychotic. So don't forget that next time. Hey, how you doing, Ray?
Peter Ray, yeah. So Ray, right? Peter Ray or what? So Cabby, first of all, can you tell me what year you were born?
Oh man, I'm 59. A big, what was that? Milwaukee World Series.
Oh, so you and I are, I was born in the 60s, so we got a lot in common. I was just thinking about, since you're from the San Francisco Bay Area, I always hate it when people call it the Bay Area because it's not very specific. But, I became a sports fan, especially a baseball fan, in 72 at the beginning of the A's 3 titles in a row. Oh, my God, so that's always something. What do you have to say about the 1972, 73, 74 Oakland A's, 3-time World Series champions?
You can't go wrong with that. I would see. It's like what you say. I think I asked you this question a year ago, but it was, when are you first cognizant of like Major League Baseball and all its, and I got to go with the '69 Mets. The A's were like right after that, but it was really big on Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh beat the Giants like in the NL playoffs, and Baltimore took out the A's the year before they had their little run. So, I've always respected those two franchises. And my dad, well, this was in San Jose, but a majority of the Kansas City Royals, there was a Kansas City AA club, and my dad's business partners owned the Kansas City Royals. It was called the San Jose Bees, but Brett was on that team, Patek. So, I'm really big on Kansas City, and of the fact that the Royals replaced the A's. I thought the, A's coming to town here. Oh, my God, 2 years later, and you're winning the 3 World Series, and you are the small market team. It's like a miracle in a way. But the biggest thing out of that World Series was there was this little kid, and he was a beggar at the BART is our subway system, and this little kid, and he's just dancing and crazy dancing, and people are throwing money in his jar, and the more money you gave him, the crazier he danced, and that turned out to be MC Hammer, Charlie Finley. For all the ball players he discovered MC Hammer, and that's probably my favorite story. And you always get to stand, whenever he shows up on the scoreboard in Oakland. So.
that has come up in my research. MC Hammer, where it's funny how things, different things you'll come across all kinds of things. That team those Oakland A's with Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter. Oh my gosh, and it's funny how these passage of time. And when Catfish Hunter died, I felt so bad. And you brought up the '69 Mets and. Yeah, Tom, terrific. The passage of time. These guys. And Joe Morgan yesterday, couldn't believe it because Joe Morgan, talk about a guy full of life, and energy, and just a tremendous player and the heart and soul of the Cincinnati Reds. So, let me bring up one thing I wanted to mention is the Oakland Raiders were such a tremendous team back in the '70s. Now they been bouncing around between L.A. and back to Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas. Is there any hope of the Raiders going back to Oakland one day?
You know what? I'm so happy about Atlanta beating the Dodgers that even you won't depress me with Oakland Raider talk. But you know what? I want to backtrack 10 feet here. I hope you don't mind.
No.
Joe Morgan. Oh, my God. Do I have stories of Joe Morgan? I used to hang out at Jack Murphy Stadium, and he's coming out. He's a broadcaster, and there's about 5 Major League ball players hanging out there. And I go, "Hey, Joe," and he looks at me, and I twitch my arm. Remember, he had that elbow twitch.
Yeah.
His elbow twice.
Right.
And I do that, and he just busts up laughing and points at me. And the other 4 Major Leaguers, I can't remember them, but I think they all thought I was psychotic. So it was but that was a great moment. And Joe, he was on the Astros. The Reds got him from the Astros. And, you didn't hit home runs in that old Astrodome. Joe Morgan changed the game. Second baseman, blinding speed, goal beyond the Gold Glove. We were trying to, Mancini was trying to talk to him about Rennie Stenton. So Joe Morgan, I can't think of any better second baseman. Maybe Bobby Grich. You're stretching it. So God bless you. Hope you're in a better place. Joe Morgan, I want to go to a broadcasting thing too here, is that they fired him on ESPN. So I'm going with my ESPN boycott. Those guys are on my S list because John Miller was doing Sunday night games with Morgan. They fired Joe Morgan without consulting Miller. Then they go to Miller. John Miller's a great announcer, and he goes, "Hey, you know what? You don't fire my buddy without telling me." And then he quits on ESPN, and ESPN was ready to sign him for 5 years. And way to stick to your buddies, John Miller. That's how great a guy was Joe Morgan. Stupidest move by ESPN, and God bless you, Morgan. You're unbelievable entertaining baseball. None parallel.
Yeah. Now you mentioned ESPN firing Joe Morgan. Well, I wasn't aware of that, but that has to be just a ridiculous. Just shows how much stupidity there is in business, because you don't fire a guy like that. Because talk about just the role he played in baseball. But I remember him announcing the guy was a smart guy. He wasn't just an athlete. He was very articulate. And it's funny. It's Tony. I think it was Tony Kubek's birthday yesterday. He's still kicking. And I remember real well. Kubek. The playoffs, World Series. Kubek doing the games with Garagiola and the AstroTurf was it in Cincinnati, and they had and they said, Kubek saying, "Oh yeah, Morgan likes to get one foot. He's on first. A threat to steal all the time. Yeah, Morgan likes to get a foot on the turf, and then a foot in the dirt that they left around the base." And oh my gosh, so if ESPN fired Joe Morgan, they were out of their mind. Absolutely. So anyway,
it's a sad week. Lou Brock, all these guys, Tom Seaver. Oh my God, Bob Gibson. It's a tough year, but you know what? We're definitely going to cover these guys on our show in depth. Well, you know what? I was feeling pretty crappy this year. This COVID got everybody on the buzz. They were doing this little makeshift 60 game. You know what? I'm going to call it a success. And you know what else has been a success in baseball? I loved the 2 out of 3. Yeah, Cleveland lost, the Padres lost. But you know what? The A's lost their first game to the White Sox. who are the stupidest team for firing their manager, but that's another story. But the 2 out of 3, the A's came back and won 2 out of 3. And you know what? Let's have a 2 out of 3 beginning. And you know what? You give the number 1 seed, you give them all the home field. In other words, if the Dodgers are the number 1 seed, guess what? They get all 3 of their games at home. And that's if that's what we get out of this the horrid year of pain and suffering. I love it. I thought the 2 out of 3 was nice. 5 is just as good. It is, and you know what? It really brought back sports for us. I mean, we have the basketball, now we have football, but baseball really kind of came through with a month to go. We thought it was a disaster, and it's been a fun year. And you know what? The AL is the same guys, except for the White Sox. These teams are all super talented. Cleveland, you go Oakland, Houston, Tampa Bay, Yankees. I guess we can include the Yankees. Top 6 teams in the AL.
Well, the World Series is going to be in Dallas, right?
Yes.
Let's go back to. I don't want to rub a sore point, but I'd like to go back to the Oakland Raiders. It sounds like. That's real. That really hurt, right? I mean, we lost the Browns, and then we got this new team, expansion team. But I tell you, the Oakland Raiders, John Madden, Kenny Stabler, Mark Van Egan, and especially John Madden, who probably is. Of course, he's still kicking, but he's kind of not very active. But one of my favorite people of all time. I think I read all his books, and I loved seeing Madden when Madden was on, announcing John Madden. What a tremendous guy. So I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm sorry about the Oakland losing the Raiders. That's a bunch of nonsense. Al Davis was a real rascal, wasn't he?
It's not Al's fault. We harp on his kid. His kid is disenfranchised. He's kind of an outcast even in the Bay Area. I mean, you see this guy. He has a hair. He looks like he got the Moe haircut from a Three Stooges barber, and he's always in sweatpants. This guy's supposed to be a multi-billionaire. I hear that he has financial trouble, and that the team is eventually going to be owned by this consortium in Vegas. That's going to just hand him a ton of money for the team. California really effed the pooch on this with the Chargers leaving San Diego. I used to go to 4 Charger games a year, and it was it was the Packers or the Cowboys, $300, and they sell the stadium out. And guess what? You're not getting that in L.A. You got the Rams there. Rams have the front door wide open there, way more competitive. San Diego, why would you alienate one of the biggest cities of San Diego, and then Silicon Valley? You know how much money is in Silicon Valley? It's crazy awful. And I'm sorry, but a bunch of minimum wage blackjack dealers are not going to be able to maintain the Raiders the way Silicon Valley with its, they got these idiots doing the internet projects, pay billions of dollars for doing nothing, and you left that market to go to Vegas. Something's not right with the NFL mafia. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about the San Francisco Giants of the late 60s into the 70s. He had Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, and that was Bobby Bonds, and then of course Bobby Mercer with the trade. But the Juan Marichal and especially Willie Mays, and that was really something. You want to talk about the San Francisco Giants of your youth?
Oh, my favorite. This was the Mets. Mets '69. I mentioned that, but I have to go with Bobby Bonds. What a player! Pre-kid, I love Barry too. I actually visit his house. The house he grew up is up in Belmont Hills. That's the area I grew up in. We're literally half a mile from Tom Brady's house. His parents still live there. So you could say 2 of the greatest players of both sports live about half a mile from each other. Bobby Bonds was something else. It just you batted him first, but he definitely had the power to be a 3-4 hitter. You don't do that because you got Mays and McCovey as your 3-4, and you got to have lightning speed leading up. Willie Mays, there's a guy, I just gave this book to Mancini from 1960, and this guy just says, the one thing you could say about Willie Mays, all these guys are great hitters, all these stars, but he says Mays was 10 times the defensive right center fielder that DiMaggio was. And Joe DiMaggio, he played San Francisco ball. I don't like the Yankees, but Joe DiMaggio grew up here at San Francisco, the Italian part of town. Before he went to fight for World War II, he was in the minors in San Francisco for 3 or 4 years. They didn't bring these minor leaguers up. His last year as a California SEAL batted .398 and still doesn't get a call up to the majors. He gets 1 year into the Yankees, and then they ship him off to go fight Germans. All these guys that have war stats, we got to, fill them in. We got to BS the stats and say, well, we're going to give DiMaggio another 100 at Ted Williams. Let's give him another 100 home runs. These guys, Willie McCovey, his passing away last year was on October 31st will be 1 year. Wow, what a stick. Probably the hardest hitter I've ever seen. I've seen him hit a ball that bounced off San Diego Jack Murphy, the old wall, which wasn't a home run. And that ball just bounced back like 5. I'm not kidding you. All 9 guys on the other team just looked at it. And this ball comes ricocheting back, almost back to the infield. And then a guy goes over and scoops it up, holding McCovey to a single. And that's big when you don't freeze 1 or 2 players, but you freeze the whole team. What a lineup.
Yeah, well, now this goes back to when you were very young, the 62 series, Game 7, last out, McCovey at the plate. 1-run game, runner second and third, and a line drive to Bobby Richardson, and it's over. And it was immortalized in Charlie Brown's comic strip where Charlie complains, that guy Charles Schultz must have felt sympathy for the Giants, but why couldn't McCovey have hit the ball a couple of feet either way? And I love these moments in history, and of course they lost the game, but still, and the guy who got the last out, was he the guy who gave up Mazeroski's home run in '60? And again, he got the last out for the Yanks in '62. So anyway, that was a big moment in '62 series.
I like you bringing up Pittsburgh there. That 60s thing's very interesting. Vern Law was the pitcher?
Right, Mormon fellow, yeah.
He started 1-4, not lights out, but, obviously he got pulled in the Yankees were winning like 9-7. Somebody got a home run to tie it up. And, I can't remember the guy's name, and that's what's so sad is the guy that tied that game up in 60,
Hal
he
Smith,
set up Mazeroski. But,
right.
If you're down 2 runs and you hit a 2-run homer, you're the hero of that game. You know what I mean? Mazeroski, if he flies out, it's still a tie game. This guy doesn't hit a 2-run jack. I wish I could think of the guy. Mancini might know the name, but
Hal Smith.
Yeah, that's it. Hal Smith, very good. And that's the killer of baseball. That's the that's the beauty, like you just said, of the sport. Hey, since you like torturing me with this, I'll torture you a little. It's like losing Game 7 to Atlanta. What was it, 1-0?
Game 6.
What was the final game? Cleveland. Atlanta won in 6.
Yeah, final game 1-0 Atlanta in Atlanta. Yep, David Justice home run.
It was David Justice home run. I do remember that. But just you got the pitch and stuff. I got a great point for you. I see if you agree with this. I really, it's been bugging me since Bumgarner pitched the Kansas City game with as a reliever for 6 innings, and this happened with the Cubs, and it really disgusted me because this guy gave it up. But Kansas City won the World Series just recently due to a great bullpen. Lights out bullpen. Your 3 guys, or you got 4 guys deep on your bullpen. Giants always had a deep bullpen. Then they pitched Bumgarner, and they don't go to this bullpen that got him to the friggin' World Series. You didn't get there, and the Cubs did the same thing. All these guys that were on the Cubs bullpen got replaced by Game 7. You should put in the guys that got you there, and they're putting in Lester. They put in Chapman, who gave up the 3-run shot to Rajai Davis, and it really bugs me. And Chapman was a Cub for about 2 months. And, the great justice was that Chapman gave up the home run against Tampa Bay last week in Game 5 because, you know what, I don't want to – he's not sorry Mariano. It's like, you ain't no Mariano if you're giving up the home runs in the last inning, buddy. I really hate this thing where all these new guys through free agency, there's got to be something where, you know what, if your bullpen got you to the friggin' World Series, play your bullpen. Don't. What the hell you get? John Lester and the other guys. I mean, are you ridiculous? And they didn't even hold the game.
Well, I agree with you completely. Now, you brought up something that stirred my memory. DiMaggio hitting 390 something for in the Pacific Coast League and 398, and it's funny because one of the things people used to talk about is guys trying to hit 400, and I haven't heard that in recent years. I remember like Rod Carew, I think, hit 390, George Brett maybe. And have you heard any talk about guys trying to hit 400 in recent years?
I'm going to go with the closest, and it's kind of a good story, sadly. He passed away at a very young age, Tony Gwynn. And this was the strike year, and he ended up winning the batting title with a 394 batting average. And I was living in San Diego at the time, so, I loved watching Tony Gwynn, one of the premier all-time players on all sides of the ball. But Tony Gwynn made a living off of, National League pitchers back then, and I want to call it the Gwynn era, lived off of that low breaking ball that slides away from you. In other words, you think it's coming right down the plate, then it breaks off to the end. And Tony Gwynn used to be able to take that pitch, which is, it goes outside. You're either swinging and missing, or it's you're swinging at a ball. And Tony Gwynn could hit that ball and just poke it into the opposite field. That's how you do it on like a pool shot or whatever. And this guy was at 394. And I actually went to this math degree. This was mathematics at UC San Diego, and they projected, because back then from 6 there was no bullpen. In other words, every team had a great closer, but the middle relief was bad. And they actually projected that had Tony Gwynn got the last month and a half that was canceled by the strike, he would have batted 406. Because they actually matched up the pitchers he would have seen, and they used his batting average against those pitchers, and they said 406. He said it wouldn't have been 400; it would have been way over 400. And he got, it's like the Expos. The Expos got screwed over, and look at that great Expo team that went nowhere. They got messed up.
So Gwynn hit 394 in 1994.
Right, and then was it that? I thought that might have been sooner. But
the strike year.
Yeah, the strike year, and it really was devastating because somebody went. They started doing this analytical stuff. The Oakland A's are kind of like famous for it, and they came up, experts for whatever word that means, 406 had he stayed in. Because he would have feasted. They said he had a crazy 400-plus batting average against poor, most relief pitching. So,
well, I want to go back to one of my favorite topics, the Oakland A's of the early 70s, and talk about those guys who all had mustaches, and Bill North, Bert Campaneris, Joe Rudy making a big catch. That's a fun topic. Great World Series or catches or moments. Rudy going against the fence. Sal Bando was from Cleveland. Catfish Hunter. Oh my gosh, that guy. Ken Holtzman. Of course, Reggie Jackson. We had Blue Moon Odom in Cleveland briefly. we picked him up. And all these guys. I mean, with the white shoes and the green and yellow and white. Oh my gosh, I can't. Catfish Hunter. Oh, I keep thinking about all those guys.
You know, we had a guest on about a month ago. He just said, who's the hardest pitcher? And he said, by the blue. And he wasn't Reggie Jackson, who was stealing bases. You know, he just wasn't a fence swinger back then. You said Ken Holtzman, my buddy was a big Rick Monday fan, and literally when they traded for Ken Holtzman, you know, we're like 10 years old or whatever we are. He's crying his eyes out. And I'm just saying, because Rick Monday's the greatest player of all time. And you know what? It takes a Rick Monday to get a Ken Holtzman. It really does. It's you know what? Sometimes you got to give up a lot to get a lot, and but it did develop that team. You know, let's go Raleigh Fingers. You know, Gene Tennis. We'll go Ray Fosse. Raleigh Fingers going to Milwaukee, and Raleigh Fingers going to the Padres and making them all. You know, Padres before that were never even out of last place for no amount of time. You know, it's one thing to sit there and win with a team like the Yankees, but when you can go to Oakland, Milwaukee, and the Padres, and you're a champion, that's Raleigh Fingers. That's how great he was. And like you just said, you go right down the line. They did it with three. I think they had three different first basemen and three different second basemen. I think it was Dick McAuliffe, ex-Tiger, Dick Green, and then Phil Gardner. I think he was the last of the second baseman. Remember the first baseman was Danny Cater, Don Mincher. I don't remember that guy. Wow, Don Mincher. Who the hell?
Mike Epstein.
Mike Epstein. That's the guy. Very good. But you see, that's how you know you got a real baseball fan. If they can name you the three second basemen and first basemen of those teams, you know you got a live one.
Well, how about the guys who would come in before Fingers? I think about those guys all the time. Darryl Knowles, Bob Locker, and Paul Lindblad. They had a hell of a bullpen. And and so that was, Claudell Washington, I think, died this year. I thought, oh, boy, Claudell Washington. Yeah, he beat Cleveland in a game. Gaylord Perry was trying to set a record, win record. And Claudell Washington's a young fellow they brought up and got a game-winning hit out in Oakland. But all those fellas, my gosh.
You just mentioned my favorite pitcher of all time. Devastated for trading for Son Sam McDowell. Never forgive the Giants for that one. George Foster, that's a little bit iffy because George Foster took about 3 years to develop under Cincinnati tutelage, so that wasn't the Giants missing out on somebody. But Gaylord Perry, oh, my God, you know, one of the great baseball books, Me and the Spitter. You want to read that. You know, they talk about the spitter. When they said the spitter was illegal in the 1920s, they let the guys that were throwing the spitter, if they grandfathered the rule out. You know, they were saying, hey, you can't pitch this. But, oh, my God, you win the Cy Young on the Padres after the Giants. And unbelievable talent on Gaylord Perry. And you know what? He's just throwing garbage. He's kind of like Wilbur Wood, but, you know, he got 20-game winners on garbage teams. We should add 5 wins to each one of those teams.
Yeah, Gaylord Perry is my favorite Cleveland Indians pitcher of all. Talk about an ace pitcher. You know, Gaylord Perry. And we had his brother Jim for, twice, but they were together in 74 and 75. And then the sad thing, we got Frank Robinson. We made history, but they didn't get along. And next thing you know, Gaylord Perry's traded, Jim Perry's traded, John Ellis is traded. Charlie Spikes can't hit anymore because he feels so much pressure having to perform under the first black manager.
I love you bringing up Jim Perry. We're running out of time here, man. I really love your show on this. I got to mention Gaylord Perry. One last thing, just for your trivia, Gaylord Perry did not appear in any of the postseason games in 1962, but he was the warm-up pitcher for batting practice for the entire series. So Gaylord Perry. That's how you say. Hey, Left Turn at Alcatraz, Thursday night, p.m. Pacific. Peter, thanks for having me, man. Great show, man.
Our guest has been Michael Crepinsek, the guy they called Cabby. thanks so much for coming on the show, Cabby.
You bet. Anytime, dude. Anytime.
God bless you. Dear listener.
Only if we can talk baseball, though.
Okay.
No more Raiders. No more Raiders. They're gone.
Okay.
They're out of state. Yeah, they're out of state Raiders.
Right. We'll lay off the Oakland Raiders. Too painful, at least for now, or maybe forever. We're into extra innings. Dear listener, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Cabby.
Loved it. Every second.
Okay.